SuperTalk Studio. Are you thinking about or planning for retirement? Do you have a plan? Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let Element Wealth help you find your balance between income, growth, and guarantees. Well, with us in studio, Sally Doty, the director of the Mississippi Office of Broadband Expansion and Accessibility. It's good to see you, Sally.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for having me on today.
Appreciate your taking the time. I know y'all have got a little bit going on at Beam. For people who aren't familiar, and I know you were on a lot, just tell us a little bit about what Beam is, what y'all do, kind of what the history of the entity is.
Beam is our state broadband office, and it is a new agency. I say new, but we've been in existence for about 2 years now to focus on administering a good bit of federal funding that's coming down to every state in the nation for broadband expansion projects. So our task at the Beam office is to have high-speed internet available to every residential location in Mississippi by 2028.
Wow. So, I mean, literally everywhere? Or is there...
Literally everywhere.
Wow.
Yes. We have been allocated $1 billion in federal funding. So our office is looking at how best to spend that funding, and we will have a competitive grant program among providers who will then build out those projects, and we will monitor and oversee that as it happens throughout these next few years.
Okay, so it's different. Y'all aren't actually building out the broadband.
No.
Y'all are administering the funds that then the various local providers will end up doing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So it's a competitive grant program.
Has some of that already been granted out? Or?
We have some different types of programs. So there is one very large program that is the BEAD program, and it is the $1 billion. But already we are administering a smaller grant. We're about to wrap up one small grant that was $32 million that's been ongoing for about 2 years. I was at the public utilities staff before this, and actually our office applied for it while we were at the public utilities staff and got that nice award. It's been so good to have that because it really has helped us develop all of our policies and procedures. A lot of broadband offices around the nation have not had that experience. And so we are very glad that we have been able to do that. We're going to wrap those up September of this year, maybe a little bit longer. But we've done probably about 10,000 locations with that grant. Then we also have another grant that we're overseeing that I'm going to talk about today, which is it's ARPA money that was designated specifically for broadband expansion projects, and it's called the Capital Projects Fund. I've been talking about it for quite some time, but finally we have some awards that are final and going out the door. And
this is all for the construction of broadband.
This is all,
I assume rural areas principally, right?
Yes. So this is all for unserved and in certain instances underserved locations. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about speeds. You know, sometimes we talk about, just being underserved in certain services. You don't have access to groceries or this. No, this is about your internet speeds and definable speeds. We have spent a great bit of time and money putting up a state map that shows where all the different locations are, which that in and of itself was problematic. The federal map didn't have all the locations that Mississippi has, so we've been challenging this federal map as we go along to get locations added. And then we had to determine where there was service, which we use a lot of federal data for that, and then also where there were existing federal awards. We've got a lot of federal money that already is designated for broadband expansion through the RDOF program in Mississippi. That came about in 2020. It's being all administered by the FCC. So we had to make sure that we had all of that on our map, and that all of that wasn't necessarily on some big map somewhere. So we've had a lot of coordination and collaboration that we've had to do to have a map that actually shows where is served, where is unserved. And of course, in the middle of all that, there's been a change in technology and the change in the way you report it. So it's an exciting time, but it's been quite a challenge.
And the mapping, has that been you all interfacing directly with local providers, or are there other sources of figuring out where the internet is, where the broadband is and isn't?
So local providers report to the FCC. In the past, it was once a year. Now it's gone to twice a year with all this federal funding coming out. And in the past, they would report a big shape file. And so if they had one location served in that shape file, they reported as served. Well, the rest of the 99 people in that shape file may not have been served. So it was not as precise as what we have now. Now, every location, you report every location. And so that's been a little bit of a challenge to get that updated. But we depend on federal data from the NBAM map. It's the National Broadband Accessibility Map, I guess. The NBAM map, we import that into our map, and then we layer on different information that we have. So our map, we want everybody to look at our map. So as you're listening to me talk today, and I'm going to talk about some awards that we have, and you say, oh, am I in part of that? I'm in that county. You can look on our map, and it will tell you. The map is at our agency website, which is BEAM, BEAM, Broadband Expansion Accessibility Mississippi, BEAM. I knew we had to have a good acronym.
Yeah, BEAM works.
BEAM. BEAM.ms.gov. BEAM.ms.gov. So if you go to that, there's a big red tab on the top that says go to the map. Click that, and you can look at the map. You can type in your address. You can just go to it. You can, move your cursor around and go to your particular location. It's got all kinds of filters on it. So you can say, show me everywhere that has fiber in Mississippi. And you can look at that. You can filter for a different provider and say, show me everywhere that XYZ provider has service in Mississippi. So there are a lot of different tools on that map that you can use. So we've invested a lot of time and effort into that map, and we have been recognized in Mississippi as having one of the most transparent maps in the nation. There's a Broadband Barometer project by the American Enterprise Institute has named us in the top 3.
Good for you. That's a real credit to your work there.
Well, thank you. It's very important to have that data out there, that we want to make data-driven decisions.
Well, it's such a change. There was a time where I think people would have thought of internet access or broadband access as almost a luxury, but it's a necessity. I mean, this reminds me a lot of the rural electrification program for the early part of the 20th century, where you're not going to be able to have a successful community if you're not able to have that kind of high-speed internet access.
You just can't. It's just so important now for work, for just a Zoom call or uploading information. I didn't realize this. I was talking to some friends of mine. When they hire remote workers, they require them to do a speed test from their remote work location.
Interesting.
And so if you cannot pass that barrier of the speed test, that your internet service connection is sufficient, then you can't even apply for that job.
That's fascinating.
So remote work, I just think that we are going to see an increase in telehealth services. I cared for my aging parents for a long time, and it would have been so incredibly helpful to have more telehealth. I can just really see that help people age in place, have more monitoring. I just think there are a lot of opportunities that are going to be provided.
So how are we doing right now? I mean, I'm not looking at your map right now, but I suspect you've done a fair amount of looking at it. I mean,
fair amount.
How is Mississippi doing in terms of the penetration rates of broadband internet?
So it changes every day. It is like Jell-O, because there's additional federal funding coming out. There's additional private projects that are happening all the time. So what we try to do is, take these numbers and determine how much is it going to cost for us to build out. We have about $40 million that we are getting out the door just right now for projects under that capital projects fund. Then we'll follow probably with another $30 million in the next couple of weeks. We have to resolve a few objections. There are a lot of rules for all of this. There are a lot of federal rules. I know. Lots of federal rules. And then there are some state rules on top of it as well. So one of our state rules, the law requires that there be an objection period. So we've had some providers who file some objections that said, oh, no, you can't give an award for that. We serve part of it. So we've had to investigate that and get that worked out. So we have worked that out for the first $40 million. We have the next $30 million close at hand. But this $40 million, I'm so excited about, some of the most needy communities that have just been without any service. So Woodville, Centerville, down in Wilkinson County in southwest Mississippi, Fayette, Puckett, Braxton, Mendenhall,
all about to get some.
All about to have fiber. So it's good stuff.
Well, we're coming up on a break. Sally, you got time for one more segment?
I do.
Y'all, this is Lucien Smith in for Gerard Gibbert here on Middays. Coming to you from the Element Wealth Studios. Stick with us for more with guarantees. We've got with us here in studio Sally Doty, the Executive Director of Beam, Mississippi's Broadband office. If you've got questions for Sally or thoughts about broadband, send us a text at 601-879-4395. Well, I think in the last segment, Sally, you were trying to get to some news about awards, and I think I kept interrupting you with getting us off topic. So what's the latest there?
No problem. I was trying to give out a few of the locations for this first $40 million in awards that we're putting out. And often it's hard because this is rural broadband, so it's hard to describe these areas sometimes. There's not necessarily a community there. It's a, cluster. You know the way it is in Mississippi. It's a crossroads, and a lot of folks live there. But I did mention some, but I also wanted to mention that we do have a project in South Central Hinds County that will go down into Copiah County.
Okay.
In Copiah County, it's going to be some areas that have a Crystal Springs is already served, but these addresses have Crystal Springs addresses up in the northern part of the county. We do have 2 or 3 projects in Hinds County. Hinds County out in the rural part has really been lacking in high-speed areas. So this is going to be great for Hinds County. Pocahontas, the people in Pocahontas, I've been out and met with them twice, I think. They're in this. So we're very excited about it. We've got some areas in the Delta, some line extensions up in Coahoma, Tunica, Quitman, and then also in the outer areas around Indianola. The town of Indianola itself has some service, but areas outside of Indianola, we have them in this project as well. So it's scattered out across the state. If you want to see if what your status is, I direct everybody to go to our map. It's at beam.ms.gov. And it's very important, this map is, for a process that we're about to undertake, which is our challenge process.
Tell us a little bit about what is the challenge process.
So our office, if you don't have service, we know you don't have service. We do. We've got you marked on our map as unserved, right? But there are some places that are mapped on our map that, we've taken data from the FCC that say areas are served that are not. So if you have some bad service, right? You don't think you have good service, whatever. We need you to look at our map. Look at our map and see what it says. Go to that beam.ms.gov. Go to the map, look at it. If it is green, it means you got federal funding coming. It's coming. It's coming. Sorry, you just got to wait a little bit, but it's coming, right?
It's coming.
Green,
it's coming.
There. No, it's not necessarily there. It's green. Green. If it is red, you are unserved, and we know you are unserved. We know it. But if it is a gray dot means you have service. This area is not going to be in a grant-funded area. You have service. Now, if you disagree with that, if what you actually experience is different from that, for example, you have service that is extremely slow. You can't keep a Zoom call going. You can't, if you stream television stuff, if it spins, and you have a gray dot, we say you're served. We need you to participate in this challenge process that Beam will be opening up. The city and county governments, nonprofits, and providers are the only ones that can challenge, but they are dependent on information that is provided by grassroots, just residents. So we need you to go to our website and run a speed test if you have problems. If it's that situation where it says you're served and you don't believe you are, you can go to our website. It says run the speed test. The speed test that we have up there runs actually 4 separate speed tests. It runs Ookla, MLab, I think it's Cloudflare is the other name. I may have that wrong. And then another kind of combination speed test that's specific to us. But
that's great. You can just go to your website.
Go to our website, click on the button that says run the speed test. Now it's going to ask you some questions. It's going to ask you, do you subscribe to the highest level of service from your provider? Answer those questions the best you can. I think even if you leave it blank, you can click on through it. I'm going to tell you that secret. But answer to the best of your ability, but do that speed test, and it's going to tell you if you are served, underserved, or unserved according to the guidelines of these federal grants.
That's fascinating.
It is going to be quite an undertaking. With the actual challenge process, we're going to open up in July. We had hoped to open it up earlier, but the feds are updating the national map. So we want to wait till we have the most recent map. Then we'll run our challenge process to update that even further. So then at the end of this process, we should know exactly what locations in Mississippi are still left with no service and that need funding. And so we will open up that competitive grant process. We hope before the end of the year, and get those applications in and get those assigned to a particular provider. So my hope is that, pretty soon we will be able to, now pretty soon, I know that's a pretty wide, I'm not giving you anything there, but pretty soon we will be able to tell everyone, okay, if you don't have high-speed internet service now, this is the provider that is going to bring it to you, that has the grant money to bring it to you. Call them, not me. But right now, anybody, feel free to call our office. I know we've had somebody text in and said they couldn't get in touch with our office. We get a lot of calls in our office. We're a small office. We have 6 people in the office. A great way is to email us. So info@beam.ms.gov. Info@beam.ms.gov comes in. We monitor that every day. We check it every day, and you will get an answer back.
That's great. So one question here is, what does a blue dot mean on the map?
Sure. A blue dot means underserved.
Okay.
So our federal grants have a order of preference. So we have to reach all unserved, and then we can reach underserved. So we will reach these underserved locations as well. I think we're going to have enough funding to do that. I'm pretty sure we're going to. So underserved, that means that you have somewhere between 25 down, 3 up, and 100 down, 20 up. So it's in that middle range.
So you've got internet, it's just not fast enough, essentially.
Yes, it's not fast enough to really qualify as high-speed internet.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It's is there anybody who's so rural that they're never going to get service with
so we stare at the map a lot, and there are some locations that are they say they're Mississippi, but they're across the river. So we might try to give them to Arkansas, but they are across the river. So if areas that are so rural like that, we have the flexibility under that grant, if it is an extremely high-cost location, to use a different types of technology, not necessarily fiber. So the overwhelming majority of the build-out will be fiber. That is our first and foremost goal, is to have fiber to everyone. But then we could use some other technology or a combination of technologies. There's some wireless technology now. There's, we've got Starlink now that might work into a couple of locations as well. So,
and so y'all might be assisting with getting that type of service as well.
Yes, I need to meet with them one more time. I know that they are very interested in providing. We could do some sort of subsidy for that Starlink. Starlink's pretty expensive.
I can imagine.
It is, and at the end of the day, a lot of people are using it now, and it is great service. But it's slower than fiber, a lot slower than fiber. So it's great when you have had really slow speeds.
If the other option's nothing, it's great.
But we will, and we'll have some extremely high cost locations. When it costs over $15,000 or $20,000 to get to one home, that's a high cost location, and so. We're going to look at, is there a better way to reach those? Right now, so we've got everything, mapped out and who has what. And so, my office, we're all from small towns all around the state, and we know the state so well that the map comes back with 12 unserved locations in Choctaw County. We're like, now we can run those down. We can run down those high-cost locations. Are they really houses, or is it someone's barn? So we're working through a lot of the issues on our map.
So we've got one question here. Are there any job openings currently with Beam, or are y'all fully staffed at the moment?
We are fully staffed, but where the work is with contractors.
Okay.
So all of the and the providers. So the providers are gearing up with grants managers, project managers, and so anyone with an accounting degree, we would love to have you. All around in Mississippi, I'm sure any provider would love to have you. But then again, they will be using contractors, and we need everybody to run excavators, to locate existing utilities. I mean, there's all kinds of work. Now, if somebody needs a summer job, is looking for an internship, call me. We'd love to have you.
Shoot you an email at info@beam.ms.gov. Is that the one?
That's it.
We got about 20 seconds left, Sally. Any final thoughts here?
My final thought is to tell everyone to visit our map. Find a way to visit the map at beam.ms.gov. Look at the type of service you have. See if you need to participate in that challenge process if it is not a true indication of your service.
Well, thank you for all you're doing, and thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
We've had Sally Doty, the Executive Director of Mississippi's Broadband Office, Beam, here with us. This is Lucien Smith in for Gerard Gibbert here on Middays, coming to you from the Element Wealth